Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. Today I want to talk about first periods. Although many of us out there have a menstrual cycle and therefore have had that experience of a first period, not all first period stories are the same, and I find that they vary widely between each person, and we all kind of have our own unique story. Even if there's like themes or they're kind of related, our story is kind of our own, and I just think it's really fascinating. If you want to hear my first period story, I'll put it up above, as well as link it in the description box. Today I want to talk about a few different things that aren't really necessarily related, but they all fit within the theme of first periods. And so I want to go over first a bit of history, and then I want to move into what happens before the first period, and then I want to move into probably my favorite part of first periods, which is the positive stories and experiences I hear from parties and celebrations that people have for these girls. And I think the aspect of the history element that I was really interested about for this video was the average age at which a girl experiences her first menstrual cycle. Let's start with the early Middle Ages, and this is kind of as early as I could find. In my mind, it seems like it would be really hard to get actual information about first periods during this time period, but apparently they can see from what they have that the average age is kind of around 14 years old. Going forward a bit, from the 1300s to the 1600s, the average age actually went up a bit to 16 years old, and this is because of widespread malnutrition that a lot of people experienced during this time. From there, it dropped back down to the age of 14 in the 1800s. From the 50s to the 60s, the average age was 13 and a half, and now it currently sits somewhere around 12 years old. Personally, I was 14 years old when I got my first period, and I felt like I was the last one in my group of friends to get her period. I'm pretty sure that's true, but I could just be remembering it very dramatically. And then really quickly, before we move into the next part, if you're curious about how what we've used has changed over time, I've made a few videos about that, which I'll include up above and down below. So I made one about menstrual cups, I made one about tampons, and I made one about pads and kind of the history and how these things have changed and developed over time. Okay, so let's get into the general timeline of puberty. When I was a preteen, my mom gave me the book, The Care of Keeping You, and I was actually gonna go check it out from the library today because I have it and I wanted to show you and have it for this video. I'll put a screenshot of it right here. But I remember spending so much time with this book. It was like an illustrated book, and I remember just scouring the pages of what is gonna happen to me. So although I didn't want to talk to anyone, I didn't want to talk to my mom, my sister, my friends about what was going to happen, I desperately wanted to know. I wanted to know exactly what was gonna happen, exactly when it was gonna happen. So after your hands and your feet have started growing, there is a budding of the breasts, and I think this was the aspect, getting boobs was a thing that I was most fascinated with for a long time. And I remember looking at the illustrations and being like, do my breasts look like that? When are they gonna look like that? And I always just was like, boobs, boobs, boobs in my mind, and am I gonna have them? And then around 6 months before a girl gets her first period, she might notice an increased amount of cervical fluid. And this was another point at which I was like, what is happening to me? And I remember girls in gym class being like, oh my god, did you see so-and-so's underwear? And I just remember that being a point of shame and embarrassment, and I remember thinking that I was diseased and something was wrong with me and I was sick because of the stuff in my underwear. Next comes pubic hair, and then acne, and then the growth spurt, and then finally the first period. And I encourage you, if you're curious about first periods, or maybe are waiting for years to come or think it might be coming soon, go watch my first period story video, which like I said, I'll put down below, because it was not what I expected and I was very confused when it did happen and I didn't know it had happened. Okay, now let's talk about first period parties and celebrations, which I just think is the coolest thing ever. Obviously, this is not a common experience, but I so wish it could become a universal thing. I kind of have 3, maybe 4 examples I want to talk about today. So the first one I want to go over today is in Canada, the Nootka people would hold a big party for a girl after she got her first period. And then after this, they would take her way out into sea, and then she would have to swim back to shore where the whole village and her family and everyone was there to greet her and cheer her on and welcome her back as a woman. The second one is in West Africa, the Dogra people. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but anyways, they would celebrate all of the girls who had gotten their first period within the past year at once. So they hold a big ceremony, and this would include mentoring by older females who would go over everything from sex to the healing powers of menstruating celebrating women. My final example comes from the Navajo people of North America. In the month after a girl has her first period, her family all comes together to throw a ceremony that lasts over 4 days. She wears a traditional buckskin dress and has her hair braided in a particular way. Each morning she gets up with the sun and runs towards it, and each day she is expected to run further and further. And then on the final night, everyone of the village stays up together, and they're led by their shaman. They spend the night praying for the girl and her family. And the emphasis of this ritual is based around physical strength and character, which I think is wonderful. I've seen a few like modern day examples of where mothers will collect either gifts or notes, stories, letters, whatever it may be, from female relatives and friends for her daughter. And then when she has her first period, her mother like sits down with her and gives her all of the gifts and kind of welcomes it in with a positive, welcome to the community vibe. And I think that's wonderful. I love all the positive stories I hear surrounding first periods, and I really hope I either have a daughter someday or I'm close enough to a young girl for which I can throw a first period party. There's so much more I could go into on this topic, so if there's anything else you want me to delve deeper into, comment that down below. I'm also curious if any of you have had a first period party or celebration, or you've thrown one. Comment that down below as well. And that's what I have to say today. I know it's a bit random, but those are just kind of the things I wanted to talk about and share with you. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!